Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and the sun doesn't rise. Not because of an eclipse, not because of storm clouds. The sun has vanished from Earth's sky forever. Within 8 minutes, 6 billion people would be plunged into absolute darkness. Within 1 year, the oceans would freeze solid. Within a decade, Earth's surface would reach -100 degrees Celsius. This isn't science fiction. Astronomers have discovered over 2 trillion rogue planets wandering the galaxy right now, and Earth could become one of them. Before we explore this cosmic nightmare, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. And if you make it to the end of this video, I'll reveal the one surprising place where humanity could actually survive for millions of years. Trust me, you won't see this coming. Let me set the scientific scenario with precision. For Earth to be violently ejected from the solar system, we'd need an encounter with something extraordinarily massive. Picture this: a rogue star, perhaps 10 times the mass of our Sun, passing within 1 light year of our solar system. Or even more terrifying, a stellar mass black hole, invisible and deadly, creating gravitational chaos as it passes through. The gravitational disruption would accelerate Earth beyond escape velocity, 42 kilometers per second, ripping us away from the Sun's gravitational embrace forever. The critical assumption here is no direct collision. Earth remains physically intact, but our cosmic address changes permanently. We become interstellar nomads. Now, here's what most people get completely wrong about this scenario, and even some scientists miss this detail. They assume Earth would be destroyed in the encounter, but the mathematics tells a different story. Stick around, because at minute 8, I'll show you why Earth's core holds the secret to survival that nobody talks about. The immediate aftermath would be absolutely catastrophic, and the timeline is terrifyingly precise. Within 8 minutes, the exact time it takes sunlight to travel 93 million miles from Sun to Earth, our sky goes dark. Not dim, not twilight. Absolute, suffocating blackness broken only by starlight. No sunrise ever again. No sunset. No twilight glow. The psychological impact alone would shatter society. Imagine 7.8 billion people realizing simultaneously that the sun is gone forever. But darkness is just the opening act of this disaster. The temperature collapse would be swift and merciless. Within the first week, Earth's average temperature plummets from 15 degrees Celsius to freezing. Your home heating might buy you days, maybe weeks. But without sunlight, there's no solar energy, and fossil fuel supplies would be fought over violently. After 1 year, we're looking at -40 degrees Celsius globally. The oceans, those vast reservoirs containing 97% of Earth's water, begin their transformation into ice, freezing from the surface downward. Within a decade, surface temperatures reach -100 degrees Celsius or colder. Every river, every lake, every ocean would be encased in ice kilometers thick. If you're still watching, you're in the top 20% of viewers. Drop a frozen Earth emoji in the comments to let me know you're here, and smash that like button, because what I'm about to reveal next changes everything you think you know about planetary survival. Here's where this story takes a turn that most people never expect. And this is where my background in planetary geophysics gets really excited. Earth wouldn't die completely. In fact, Earth doesn't actually need the sun to remain a living world, and I can prove it with evidence from our own solar system. Why? Because Earth has a secret weapon that's been quietly operating for 4.5 billion years. Geothermal energy. Deep beneath your feet, beneath the crust, beneath the mantle, Earth's core remains scorching hot at approximately 5,000 degrees Celsius. That's nearly as hot as the surface of the sun itself. This heat comes from 2 perpetual sources. First, primordial heat, the leftover thermal energy from Earth's violent formation when countless planetesimals collided and merged, generating tremendous heat that's still dissipating. Second, and this is the game changer, continuous radioactive decay. Elements like uranium-238, thorium-232, and potassium-40 inches, Earth's mantle and crust, are constantly undergoing nuclear decay, generating heat that will continue for billions of years, completely independent of the sunday. Here's the remarkable implication that scientists only fully appreciated in the last 20 years. Beneath that growing layer of ice covering the oceans, liquid water would persist. The immense pressure from kilometers of ice above, combined with geothermal heat rising from hydrothermal vents below, would maintain vast oceans of liquid water in complete darkness. This isn't speculation. We observe this exact phenomenon on Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus right now. Europa has an ice shell 20 to 30 kilometers thick, covering a global ocean that's remained liquid for potentially billions of years. If it works there, it absolutely works here. But wait until you hear what this means for life itself, because the answer will fundamentally change how you think about biology. Let's be brutally honest about surface life first, because the extinction would be swift and total. Within days, maybe a week maximum, every plant on Earth dies. Photosynthesis ceases entirely across the planet. The forests, the grasslands, the rainforests, the phytoplankton in the oceans, all dead. The food chains that depend on photosynthesis, which represents approximately 99% of Earth's biomass, collapse catastrophically. Herbivores starve within weeks. Carnivores follow shortly after. Within months, the surface becomes a frozen graveyard. This would be the most severe mass extinction in Earth's 4-billion-year history, making the Permian extinction that killed 96% of species look mild by comparison. But here's what Hollywood and most science fiction gets completely wrong, and this is critical. Deep below, in the eternal darkness beneath the ice, life wouldn't just survive, it would thrive. Not the life we're familiar with, not animals or plants, but something far more ancient and remarkably more resilient. Chemosynthetic bacteria and archaea. These extraordinary organisms don't need sunlight. They've never needed sunlight. They're probably older than photosynthesis itself. They derive all their energy from chemical reactions, breaking down compounds like hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and iron to power their metabolism. This is called chemosynthesis, and it's the original form of metabolism that first evolved on Earth. We know these ecosystems exist right now in Earth's oceans, thriving around hydrothermal vents at crushing depths where sunlight has never penetrated. These are the famous black smokers, underwater volcanic chimneys belching superheated, mineral-rich water at temperatures exceeding 300 degrees Celsius into the freezing deep ocean. Around these vents, entire ecosystems flourish. Giant tube worms up to 2 meters long, eyeless shrimp, specialized crabs, fish adapted to total darkness, all feeding directly or indirectly on bacteria that feed on chemicals. No photosynthesis, no sunlight, no sun required whatsoever. On a rogue Earth drifting through interstellar space, these deep-sea ecosystems wouldn't even notice the sun was gone. They'd continue thriving for millions, possibly billions of years, as long as Earth's radioactive core remained hot and volcanic vents kept pumping. In fact, without the complication of surface life and photosynthesis, they might actually expand, spreading throughout the under-ice oceans, creating a thriving chemosynthetic biosphere that could persist until Earth's core finally cools down in several billion years. Hit that subscribe button right now if you want more mind-bending space scenarios like this, because we're about to tackle the question everyone's really thinking about. Could humanity survive? I'm going to give you 2 scenarios, and I want you to comment which one you think would actually happen if we got the warning tomorrow. Scenario 1. Humanity is completely unprepared, which is essentially our current state. This is the nightmare timeline. The electrical grid collapses within days as solar panels obviously fail and fuel supplies for power plants run out or become impossible to distribute. Without electricity, modern civilization doesn't just decline, it evaporates almost overnight. No heating for homes as temperatures plummet. No communication networks. No transportation infrastructure. No internet. No phones. Total social collapse within weeks. Agriculture becomes impossible instantly. Every crop freezes. Every farm animal dies. The global food supply chain, which operates on incredibly tight just-in-time logistics, shatters within days. Grocery stores are looted empty in hours. Governments lose control as law enforcement breaks down. People fight desperately over the last remaining resources: canned food, fuel, medicine. The violence would be unimaginable. In this scenario, human extinction would be virtually guaranteed within 6 months to a year. Maybe isolated groups in geothermal areas like Iceland could last slightly longer, but without preparation and infrastructure, even they would eventually fail. Extinction probability, 98%. Scenario 2. Humanity has advance warning, let's say 5 to 10 years before the ejection event. This completely changes the equation. And here's the scenario that space agencies have actually studied in classified documents. With sufficient preparation and resources, small populations of humans, maybe tens of thousands to a few 100,000, could potentially survive for thousands or even millions of years, but it would require the most ambitious engineering project in human history, and we'd need to start immediately. Here's exactly how it would work. We'd need to construct sealed, self-sustaining cities deep underground, ideally 3 to 5 kilometers down, in geologically active regions with accessible geothermal heat. Think Iceland, Yellowstone, Indonesia, New Zealand, East African Rift Valley. These underground cities would need to be completely sealed from the frozen surface, with multiple redundant life support systems that could operate for centuries without outside input. Energy would come from 3 sources, and this is non-negotiable. First, advanced nuclear fission reactors, preferably thorium-based breeder reactors, that can generate power for decades without refueling and produce minimal waste. Second, geothermal energy harvested from the volcanic heat, providing both electricity and direct heating. Third, possibly nuclear fusion if we can perfect the technology in time, which would give us virtually unlimited energy. We'd need to completely abandon every energy source we currently rely on. No solar power, obviously. No wind energy, the atmosphere would partially freeze. No hydroelectric dams, all water frozen solid. Everything would have to come from underground sources. Food production would happen in massive underground farms using LED artificial lighting powered by our nuclear and geothermal systems. We'd grow crops hydroponically in nutrient solutions. No soil required. We'd probably rely heavily on protein sources that are efficient to farm in confined spaces. Insects like crickets and mealworms, fungi, algae, bioreactors, and possibly lab-grown meat if the technology advances enough. It wouldn't be comfortable. It wouldn't be the life we know. But it would be survival. Water wouldn't actually be a problem, surprisingly. We'd recycle every single drop in closed-loop systems, just like the International Space Station does now. Air would be recycled similarly, with plants and algae producing oxygen and absorbing carbon dioxide. The technology already exists, we'd just need to scale it up massively. The real challenge wouldn't be technological. It would be social and psychological. Could human civilization maintain itself for thousands of years in artificial caves, never seeing the surface, never seeing real sunlight, every person born into this underground existence knowing they'd die there? It would require a level of social cohesion, discipline, and long-term thinking that humanity has rarely demonstrated. But in theory, yes, a cave-dwelling civilization could persist for as long as our technology and social structures held together. Survival probability with preparation, maybe 20 to 30%. We're at minute 8, so here's that survival secret I promised. The one place nobody thinks about, the deep mines. Places like the Mponeng gold mine in South Africa, already 3.9 kilometers deep, where temperatures naturally reach 60 degrees Celsius from geothermal heat. With modification, existing deep mines could be converted into survival shelters faster and cheaper than building new underground cities. Comment, mine, if you think that's where you'd try to survive. But let's zoom out to the biggest question. Where would rogue Earth actually go? Once ejected from the solar system at 42 kilometers per second, Earth becomes a starship, a frozen world hurtling through the galaxy, carrying the last remnants of life into the cosmic unknown. The Milky Way galaxy is almost incomprehensibly vast, 100,000 light-years across, containing 400 billion stars. Earth could drift through interstellar space for millions, tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of years without encountering another stellar system. We'd pass through the cold, empty voids between stars, a frozen monument to what once was, traveling through space at 15 million kilometers per year. But here's the possibility that transforms this from pure tragedy into something almost hopeful, and this is based on actual astrophysical simulations. Eventually, after eons of wandering, Earth might encounter another star system. The probability isn't zero, it's actually estimated at around 5 to 10% over a billion-year timeframe. If the trajectory and velocities align correctly, Earth could be gravitationally captured into orbit around a new star. Imagine that moment. After millions of years of absolute darkness, the ice-entombed Earth drifts into the gravitational embrace of a new sun. Slowly, over thousands of years, the ice begins to melt as the new star's radiation gradually warms the surface. The oceans return. The atmosphere, which would have frozen and collapsed to the surface as solid nitrogen and oxygen, would sublimate back into gas. The sky would have color again. And here's the profound possibility that gives me chills every time I think about it. Deep in those under-ice oceans, the chemosynthetic bacteria that survived the long night would suddenly find themselves in a world with light again. Given another few billion years, evolution could theoretically run its course again. Complex life could re-emerge. Photosynthesis could re-evolve. An entirely new biosphere could develop under an alien star in a different part of the galaxy. Earth would get a second genesis, a new dawn after the longest night imaginable, possibly with life forms that would look nothing like anything that existed before. If you've made it this far, you're officially in the top 5%. Drop second dawn in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because next week we're exploring what would happen if Earth passed through a supernova shockwave. Let me give you the hard scientific feasibility assessment because I believe in being honest about the probabilities. The chance that Earth gets ejected from the solar system in the next billion years is low, probably around 0.01% or 3 out of 10,000 on a cosmic timescale. It would require a very specific and rare gravitational encounter. The probability that Earth survives physically intact through the ejection is very high, around 80 to 90%. The planet itself is remarkably robust. It's survived 4 billion years of asteroid impacts and cosmic violence already. The probability that microbial life survives long-term in under-ice oceans is extremely high. I'd estimate 90 to 95%. We have every reason, based on extremophile research and comparative planetology, to believe this would work. Life is far more resilient than we once thought. But the probability that human civilization survives, that's where reality gets harsh. Without preparation, maybe 2%. With 10 years of preparation and global cooperation, maybe 20 to 30%. We're simply not adapted for this scenario. Hello. I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. Traces back to that nuclear fusion reaction happening 93 million miles away. If Earth were ever thrust into eternal darkness tomorrow, the planet would endure. It would drift through the galaxy as a frozen world, but still a living world in the deep oceans, carrying Earth's story into the future. But we, humanity, would likely not make that journey. Our chapter would end, and new chapters might eventually begin under different stars with different authors. The most terrifying realization isn't actually the cold, or the darkness, or even the extinction. It's the sudden, undeniable understanding of exactly how fragile we are in the cosmic scale of existence. We inhabit a tiny rocky world, the third planet from a medium-sized yellow star, in an ordinary spiral arm of an ordinary galaxy that contains billions of other stars. Everything we are, every city ever built, every book ever written, every person ever born, every moment of love and loss and triumph and tragedy in all of human history depends entirely on conditions remaining stable in a universe that is fundamentally chaotic, violent, and indifferent to our existence. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you wake up and see sunlight streaming through your window, stop for just 10 seconds. Feel that warmth on your skin. Look at the colors, the blue sky, the green plants, the whole visible spectrum made possible by our star. Appreciate the sheer improbability of it all. That light traveled 93 million miles through the vacuum of space to reach you. Those photons were created by nuclear fusion in the sun's core, took thousands of years to random walk their way to the sun's surface, then 8 minutes to reach Earth, just so you could feel warm. We're not separate from the Sunday, we're made of the Sunday. Every atom of carbon in your body, every atom of oxygen you breathe, was forged in the nuclear furnace of ancient stars that exploded billions of years ago. We're literally made of stardust, and we're kept alive by a star. That connection is unbreakable and beautiful, and terrifyingly fragile all at once. Protect this planet, not as an abstract environmental slogan, but as a literal survival imperative. Earth is the only home humanity has ever known, And in a universe where planets can be cast into eternal darkness by random gravitational encounters, where ice ages can last millions of years, where extinction is the default outcome for 99.9% of all species that have ever lived, we're incredibly, impossibly, almost miraculously fortunate to be here right now, in this moment, still bathed in light. Make sure you watch this next video where I explore what would happen if the moon suddenly disappeared. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. And remember, every sunrise is a gift from a star.